These huts, the hot pickers huts, were built in 1935 for the sole purpose of accommodating people from different parts of London who used to come here just for the hot picking season in late August, early September.
I grew up in the East End of London, and the first time I went hot picking was when my mother was expecting me, and then I actually went when I was, 6 months old. And I'm 76 and I'm still going.
We always used to look forward to receiving a letter from Mr. Small, the farmer. He always wrote in green ink, very distinctive, and when that came, you knew hot picking was maybe a week or 2 weeks away.
We went by lorry, and you'd get to Gillingham, and there was all like wide grass with all flowers and hedgerows, and are we nearly there? Is this the country? No, we've got a long way to go. You were limited to what you could take down. It was mainly bedding, curtains, crockery, clothes, Wellington boots, typical hot pickers thing, Wellington boots and Macs. My mother used to get the J's and the bucket and sweep all this hut down, and the living part she would paint, and then the bed part there was quite a high wooden bed, and the farmer used to supply the straw, and Mum would take down a big thick bed tick and fill that with straw. That was our bed on there, and she would pin all sheets round the bed part and put up big curtains and lace curtains and a valance in front. Mum and I slept on that bed, and she made another one at the end for my brother.
I do remember some people that used to come here, and the bales of straw, they just used to cut them open, spread them on the floor and throw a blanket on it, and that was their bed. But still a lovely bed, a nice straw bed. We had to be in the fields at 7, so we got up, say 6 o'clock, dark, very cold the huts were that time of year, and cold wash, no hot water, no running water, cold wash, walk down to the fields. And a great memory is that every morning the fields were soaking wet with dew, and we used to like making patterns all through the grass going down the field. And when you got to the field, pulled the bines, and all the dew came off the bines, freezing cold, but it was still hot picking. It was great fun.
You had prams and barrows, you'd put all your clothes and your lunch and everything, and you'd go to the hop field, and we all had to pick, even as children, which I hated doing. My brother loved it. So I used to pick one hop at a time, as you can see the size of them, put a basket in front of me and throw them in there. Then I used to put it behind me and throw them over my shoulder. Then I'd pick in a little bucket and tip it in there, and I was so bored with it. And I hated all that. You get thick green on your hands, and I wouldn't pick unless I had gloves on, even from a little child. Couldn't stand the stickiness, and when you ate your lunch, it was bitter.
When we came up in the afternoon, at the 5 o'clock finish, the young boys and girls used to come up, get the fire going, so that as soon as Mum arrived, once she'd had her cup of tea, she'd get into the cooking. So it was all help each other, and it all worked out well. It was a long, hard day, but you slept Absolutely wonderful. I wish I could sleep like it now, I know that.
During the day, it was sandwiches that my mum would pack up to take onto the field.
Sandwiches, always fighting wasps away from your sandwiches. And I can't really remember much more in sandwiches for many years other than cheese.
And they'd take a kettle and mugs and that, make a little fire in the hot field and boil the water and make tea. The farmer supposedly used to fetch boxes of apples every day and put in the middle of the meadow. That was supposed to be for the children, so that the children didn't go in the orchards and pick them themselves. But there was a lady there that used to take the box of them and do toffee apples and sell them to the children.
By the time you came back here, got the fire going, got the kettle on, got the food cooked, 7 o'clock time, it was dark, playtime.
It was freedom. It was trees and fields, and you could wander for miles without seeing anyone and climb trees and play in the mud. You know, it was so different to London, especially the London that I knew because I grew up during the war.
There was so much to do, but you never really planned anything. The day just went by steadily and you just done different things all day.
They used to have national dried milk in tins like that, and I got one of them and went all along the hedgerow collecting snails. They were going to be my pets for the hot picking, and unbeknown to my mum, put it under the bed. And when it got warm during the night, they knocked the lid off and we had snails up the wall, snails up the curtains. My mother wasn't too pleased.
Great fun, all sorts of games out and chasing about in the dark.
We had to go and get milk every day because you didn't have fridges then.
All the water was needed for washing, cooking, making the tea. Just inside the gate at the bottom of this field there's a trough there for the animals, and there was a standpipe there, and that's where we used to carry the water from. And as little children, a kettle in each hand, and as you got older, something bigger. And then the most common thing for the older people, the dads and myself, like as I got old, were 2-gallon enamel buckets, one in each hand to balance you as you came up the field.
Well, my mum was a good cook, and she used to have the big hopping pots, as they were called, the big cast iron pots, and she used to cook for all the family. She used to do apple puddings and sultana puddings with custard and onion and bacon puddings, you know, in the white cloth, and everybody had cut a piece off of it.
Rabbit stew, fresh caught rabbits, fresh vegetables, masses of thick gravy, absolutely delicious. Could live on it every day, really. I still can remember names of people who were in these huts. Mrs. Old, Mrs. Old, A-U-L-D, but she was old and she was allergic to hops. So she used to come here every year with her family, but she never left the hut.
When the lorry came through Blackwall Tunnel and you come back to the smoke and the smells, and that freedom had gone and you felt closed in. Everything felt as though it was closed in on you. After being used to fields, and it was a strange feeling, really. You were glad to go back to your home and your belongings, and we were quite lucky. We lived in a nice flat with an indoor bathroom, and you missed all that, so you was glad to get back to that, but you did miss the open spaces.
I can honestly say from the day you got home, you started looking forward to coming the following year.